Hey guys, George, Roddy.
Tim Harridge.
Thanks for taking action and welcome to the inside of the Flip That Contract formula. Now Tim, I wanted you to give them, we didn't do this in the introduction, but give them a little inside background on who you are and what you do on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis.
Well, I've got a different kind of story. 10 years ago, I was a sergeant in the Marine Corps making $1,810 a month. And the best thing about it was if we went to combat, I got an extra $100 and it was all tax-free. The worst part about it was whether I worked 20 hours a week and had 4 days off because of a holiday, or if I worked 80 hours a week and was deployed away from my family, I was capped and set at what I could make. And I just wanted more out of my life. So I got out of the Marine Corps and I found this business. And this business taught me quickly about the power of hard work and dedication. The first house I ever bought, I'll never forget, it wasn't even for sale. It was a house over in West Dallas here in Texas, and there was a for rent sign nailed to the tree. I called on that house and asked the lady if she'd be interested in selling it. She said yes, and I asked her how much she wanted for the house. And I'll never forget, she said $63,000. I looked at the house, and I had a mentor at the time, and he told me to offer $40,000 cash. And I looked at him and I said, I don't have the cash. He said, well, we'll get to that later, but right now just tell them $40,000 cash as is and you'll close in 10 days. I offered the $40,000 and it was probably the single most profound conversation I've ever had. The lady went from $63,000 to $50,000 in one sentence. And $13,000, you have to understand, was more than half of what I was used to making for a year. So when someone came down $13,000 in one phone call, it really just it opened up the world of investing to me, and from that point on, the game was on. Since then, I've bought and sold over 1,000 houses. I started out wholesaling. I still actively wholesale. I'll wholesale 30 to 40 houses this year. I buy, fix, and sell houses. I retail houses, that's what they call it. And I also own several rentals and different partnerships and have an interest in houses that way too. So I'm actively involved in all three phases of the real estate investment game, but I got my start wholesaling. So George and I, as we were talking about the challenges of this market, we just really decided that this was the way to help people like you get into this business. But that's enough about me. So George, why don't you tell them about you?
All right, thanks, Tim. So here's my story. 18 years ago, I went to my first courthouse auction. See, I was working for my dad. My dad owns a company that tracks foreclosures here in the state of Texas. I don't know if some of you guys have heard of it. It's called the Roddy Report. Anyway, he sent me down there because we monitor what actually went on the courthouse steps. How many banks are buying them back? How many third-party investors are buying on the courthouse steps? Well, here's what happened. I went to my first courthouse. It was in McKinney, Texas, in Collin County. And bottom line is, I saw a lady show up and buy a condominium for $501. Yeah. And this was an $80,000 condominium. At that point, I was in a daze. I was like, do what? Bottom line is, someone just bought an $80,000 condo for $501. That blew my mind. So I didn't walk back to the office. I ran back and started picking the brain of my dad, figuring out how this works. And every month I'd go back to this auction and basically find that she would come back and I started picking her brain. And it made such an impression on me that first day 18 years ago that I haven't missed another auction since. See, I love buying foreclosures before the sale, at the sale, and after. I bought over 500 houses, controlled them, wholesaled them, bought them, fixed and flipped. That's my background. And so what we're trying to do is show you with Tim's credentials and my credentials the right way of doing it, of controlling real estate and making money at it. Hey Tim, I want to just sit down and talk to them. What is our why? I mean, why do we put together the Flip That Contract formula?
You know, George, it's interesting. You and I have talked a lot about this, and the economy is just so tough right now. And even those of us that were fully, real estate investors with rentals, we've suffered. We've hit growing pains.
There's been a change. There's been a shift.
I mean, I'll never forget. I mean, in August 2007, when the market collapsed, I had 38 houses I owned, and they were all vacant. And it's been tough. So, over the last couple of years, I think, you guys in the foreclosure business, like your dad, what do you see? Banks aren't lending. Mm-hmm. Foreclosures are going up in Texas, even though the national media says everything's great. Aren't they going up?
Yeah, we still have the same number. The foreclosure numbers have stabilized, but they're still high. And I think you pointed it out is that banks aren't lending. The instant loans and the liar loans and hey, if you got a heartbeat you can get a loan, that stuff is gone. Right. So we've had a significant shift in our market, and I think that these guys need to get on board. And we're seeing a lot of people struggle. There's a lot of people in a lot of different industries that are struggling, and they're unsure about what's going to happen next month. So to me, I think these people, we need to convey the message on there is a system, a way to make money in real estate today, first and foremost, and we've got it.
And that's one of the things about the flip that contract system is it's really based off the economics 101 law of supply and demand.
Yeah.
And right now, with the economy tanking and lenders hemorrhaging and foreclosures going up, it presents an opportunity for people like me and you and people watching this to go in and buy houses at even deeper, more significant discounts than we could have 3 or 4 years ago.
That's right.
And it's brought out the bears. There's a lot of money getting into the real estate market right now, and the nice thing about Flip That Contract is we found a way to combine the motivated sellers, the people that have to sell, and the people that are in the market right now because they want to buy. They know that there's never going to be a better time to buy than the next couple of years, and there's a lot of money out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it really just comes down to if you have a consistent program, if you've got a blueprint that you can follow, I think that is the key, is making it simple for people to follow, and not getting so elaborate and fancy and spending all this money. I think if you have a consistent program and plan, you're that much ahead, and we've got that in our modules.
Tell me, let's talk about there's people watching that may not know what wholesale real estate is.
Okay.
What is wholesale real estate?
Well, Tim, our definition of wholesaling is finding an attractive deal. Finding a deal that either has a lot of equity, right, or a deal that has really good terms, right? One or the other, so it's got high equity or great terms. And basically, you get it under contract. You tie the property up where you have the option, not the obligation, to close on it.
Right.
And during that period of option, you have the right to shop it around and to find an end investor, or an investor that you were talking about, that they're sitting on the sidelines and they don't have time to mail it. They don't want to. They just want product. You bring it to them. You fulfill that need that they want, and you make money doing it.
Right, and all the time, you may be at your son's football game, or at playing golf on the weekend, or just hanging out at the pool, and you'll hear people talk about, I've been wanting to buy rent houses, and my buddies and I are going to put some money together and do it. And I think the important thing about that is this is such a unique concept, because you don't have to have the money to buy the house. No. You just have to know how to find the house.
Yeah, you need to know where to find them and how to control it.
Can every house be wholesale?
Absolutely. Yeah, so really we've got 3 types of wholesaling, right? You've got low equity, where I basically get a house that doesn't have a lot of equity, but it's got great terms. It's
what do you mean terms? Let's tell them what a term is.
It's got a 30-year mortgage with a 5.5% interest rate, and it's fixed. So somebody would love, someone who can't get a loan right now, for instance, would love to step in and buy that, and they have cash that they put down, and then they start making the mortgage payments. Let's say that I got your property under contract, right? You're the seller, I'm the buyer. You've got a property that doesn't have a lot of equity, hence the low equity assignment. I get it under contract. It's a $200,000 house, and you owe $190,000. There's not a lot of equity, but you've got a 5% or 5.5% loan. That's what I'm talking about. That's attractive to somebody.
Well, you know the next part is my favorite.
Yep.
The high equity assignment. And typically the high equity assignment is the house where someone has lived in it for 15, 20 years, might have had a divorce, might have had a death in the family, and hadn't really been able to keep up with the routine maintenance. And you all know about the light bulbs in the yards that need to be mowed and the trees that need to be trimmed. And it's that typically the house has gotten into a position to where it's not eligible to be sold through a realtor because a buyer can't qualify for it.
Okay.
And so they need to sell it for cash or as is, or it's someone that has experienced a unique situation that makes them very motivated to sell the house and move on.
They have a why.
Yeah, they have a why. And this is a point where I've got to stop and make sure that you all understand that to be a real estate investor is not to be a vulture. You're not seeking out desperate people. You are marketing yourself out there to where when someone has a problem, when someone runs into an issue in their life that involves a house, they call you to solve it. And it's funny, George, I get people all the time, they call me and they say, now I'm not giving the house away. And I always tell them, oh, dadgummit, I'm waiting for the person that is.
Right.
And no one ever gives their house away. And we don't ever hold a gun to someone's head and say, oh, sign the dotted line.
Well, there was that one.
No.
Never mind.
It's kind of, I tell people, and this is my little nugget for you right now, it's like I'm 7-Eleven. If you go to 7-Eleven and buy a gallon of milk, you are going to leave the store with less money in your pocket.
Right.
But 7-Eleven's closer to your house. There's not as long of a line. The parking lot is what? Well, 1/20th the size. Or you can drive down the street to Kroger, and you can park in the parking lot that's made for 10,000 people.
Right.
And you can walk to the back of the store, because that's where they keep the milk, and you're going to have a little bit more money in your wallet once you wait in line after 25 people and get back home an hour later.
Right.
So,
and you've probably purchased 3 or 4 other items.
Right.
So
but let's just say that you bought the milk.
Okay.
Because the whole thing is it's time and convenience for a price.
Right.
People call us, they sell to us, we wholesale it to a buyer, and it's not because the price that we paid them, it's more the convenience and the way we teach people to structure the deals. And George, I've heard people say all the time that you can't wholesale a foreclosure, and a lot of people don't understand the difference.
Okay, yeah.
So why don't you tell them the difference between a foreclosure and REO, and let's debunk that myth once and for all.
Yeah, I get a lot of calls on a weekly basis from people that say, I want to buy a foreclosure, and the first thing I'm going to ask is, what's your definition? What do you mean by foreclosure? Because my definition, Tim, is something that a foreclosure is before or at an auction.
So it's kind of pre-foreclosure.
You've got pre-foreclosure leads, and then you have foreclosures, which is what I do. Is I go on the courthouse steps and I buy these things with cashier's checks. That's foreclosure.
So foreclosure is what they're doing down there at the courthouse on the first Tuesday of every month.
Absolutely. And once the property has been foreclosed on, it's then been deeded or transferred. Ownership has been conveyed to the bank, and now that's an REO. And most people equate foreclosures to REOs. So
when people call my wife or call you as a realtor and say, I want to buy a foreclosure,
yeah,
they're not talking about going to the courthouse steps.
Right. And that's what I want to differentiate. So the big thing, the fallacy is, look, you cannot wholesale REO properties. Properties that have already gone through the system, and now they're listed on MLS, and you can't wholesale those things. You can't get it under contract and make money without buying it. And that's not true. It's called a simultaneous close or a double close. You just need to know who to talk to and which title companies and how to structure the deal. And that's part of our program. That's the beauty of it, is you're talking to two guys that know know what to say, know who to talk to, and know how to structure the deal correctly.
And if you want to do it yourself, you just need to find a source for transactional funding. You just need to find someone that's going to help you fund the deal for most of the time, George, less than 2 hours, and then make sure your end buyer shows up, everything funds out, and you get your money back.
There's a process.
There's a process.
And that's the key is, you need to learn the process, you need to learn the system, and that's what we're here to do in Flip That Contract, is show you what the process is, walk you through it.
Right.
Look, we don't talk the talk. We're going to walk the walk, all right? You're going to see in this program that we can back up what we're talking about. All right, so we talked about the why, we talked about the economy, and why we believe that this is needed for this day and age. Now let's talk, Tim, talk to them about the program. Talk about what modules do we believe you have to be successful in this business?
To be successful in really any real estate business, but specifically in wholesaling, you've got to do, there's 6 things that you really need to do. And first is setting up your business. There's a lot of quotes, and it just rings so true, George, that if you don't start right, you can't finish right. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Module 2. And Module 2 is not about chasing down and knocking on doors. Module 2 is more about getting motivated sellers to call you.
Yeah.
And,
do you call them, or do you wait for them to call you? So that's really the lead generation.
Lead
right?
generation.
Yeah,
exactly.
absolutely. You've got to have a consistent way, or a plan to consistently have people calling you. Right? I mean, I've heard people say that you're not in the real estate business; you're in the real estate marketing business.
Right.
Right? You can have all of this knowledge and good looks and slick, but if no one knows who you are and what you do, it's a moot point. So you got to have people calling you. They need to know who you are and what we do, and that kind of goes into Module 1. And there's 6 modules that we put together, but that one is setting up your foundation in your business, and number 2 is lead generation. What's 3?
Well, number 3 is lead conversion. And the thing about lead conversion is, it's one thing to get someone to call you, but it's another thing to know what to say and when to say it.
Yeah.
And little things, setting up the appointments, meeting people at the right time, and just learning what to offer, and when to offer it, and how to offer it, to where
and when to offer it. Do you do it on the initial call? Do you try to interrogate
you do the
them
phone
enough?
offer where you get them to tell you what they want on the phone?
Right.
And the thing about lead conversion is, what you need to understand is, this is a numbers game in a people business, and when you learn how to connect with the people and give them what they're looking for, which, George, we always talk about this, a lot of times it's not money they're looking for.
Right.
A lot of times it's a certain deadline, it's a date, it's a sense of security that they know that mom's house is going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
And so it's knowing what to say and when to say it and what to offer and when to offer it.
Yeah.
And then, George, there's Module 4, which is, it's tricky, but it's how do you contract and control these properties?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How to paper this stuff up.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned it, we talked about 8 pages. I mean, it doesn't have to be that complicated. I mean, every state's different, but there are certain documents that you and I use, and I could go to any state and basically figure out the documents.
Right.
The elements of the documents are going to be the same. Yeah, there's going to be some bylaws and some procedures and processes a little bit differently, but it's how do we paper up the deal to protect ourselves and protect our sellers and ourselves and all that good stuff. So that's an important piece, and there's tips, there's things that we write in our contract, and addendums that we make sure, because we've gone through the process. We've been burned on occasions.
Yeah, we have. And then, we'll talk about disclosure too. I mean, there's certain things that
Absolutely.
Here in Texas, of course, we have to disclose, and a lot of these things, I'm sure in other states, they'll need to disclose as well.
So
one is, you're a realtor. When you buy a house, you have to tell people you're a realtor.
Yeah, and things like that. We've got to cover all the bases. All right, so that's number 4, is contracting, controlling the deal. Number 5 is what?
Well, number 5 is, now you've got this precious contract.
You got these 8 pages.
Yeah, and what do you do with it?
Yeah.
And it's all about marketing and packaging your property into what we call POP, property overview packet,
right?
And then getting it out to the right people that have the money and have the desire to close on the property.
Right. Whether it's an end investor or an end buyer, right?
Right.
You got to package it up, or package your deal and get it to the right people.
Right.
And so there's a right way, there's a wrong way, and we believe that we don't sit on a lot of contracts.
No.
And so if you got a big enough audience, if you're talking to the right audience, you'll do deals.
And I'll tell you right now, if you're sitting on a contract that you've already signed, you need to finish watching this video first, and then you need to hit X out of the browser, and you need to write up the property, get all your pictures, all your videos, and market it like crazy. Because if you haven't sold it yet, and you've promoted it, then the market's telling you that you either have it too highly priced or you haven't advertised it enough. So that's a little nugget.
One
on
of
that.
two things.
Yeah, I mean, it's pricing, product, or presentation, and it's got to be one of the three.
That's right. All right, so last thing.
My favorite part.
This is your favorite. I don't know what. It's kind of, actually, I'm going to be honest, it's my favorite part too.
Closing.
Yeah.
It's how to get to closing, how to get there successfully. How you've got to make sure you track everything. And George, I say it all the time, buyers are liars. Mm-hmm. And when you put a house under contract and you assign it to someone, you run a big risk of, what do they call it? Oh, getting dropped in the grease. And getting left there at closing with no money to fund the deal and an angry seller.
And some upset people.
Yeah. And so you need to make sure you manage the transaction and do everything you need to get from point A to point B and ultimately across the finish line. And then you get paid, and then you've really got to focus on what you do with the money when you get paid. You need to pay back anything you owe on that house, or if you borrowed money to get started, and then you need to reinvest it in yourself and in your business and in your family, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those are the 6 modules. We'll go brief overview: setting up your business, lead generation, lead conversion, contracting, controlling properties, packaging and presenting your pop, and closing considerations. So, George, we've got this $1,000 laying here, and we've talked about the modules. Let's do some teaching. Let's tell them what the contest is, and let's teach them how to do something.
So, Tim, I want you to tell them how somebody's going to win this $1,000 cash. And so we're running a contest. Walk me through. Tell them how they win this.
Well, what we're going to do is we're about to teach you about setting up your business and establishing an identity and creating what we call a squeeze page. And to do that, you've got to record a video. So we're going to teach you how to record a video. There's a script down below us that we're going to ask you to download, and we're going to go over with you. And what you're going to do is you're going to record that video. You're going to post it to YouTube, copy the URL out of YouTube. You're going to have to set up a YouTube channel.
If you don't already have one.
Right, if you don't already have one. And then you're going to copy that URL, come back to this page. It has to be on this page. And down below where it says Facebook comments, you need to post the link there. And click on contest rules down below if you need more information. But George and I and our team will review the submissions, and from there we'll announce a winner of the $1,000 cash on July 4th.
Whoever has the most creative script and video, is
this a beauty pageant?
This is not a beauty pageant. We want the most creative script. And guys, what this video is all about is being yourself. All right, being yourself and conveying the message on who you are and what you do, as far as that you're a real estate investor and that we absolutely want to make you an offer. Because these people are going to be coming to your site because you're marketing to them, and you have this URL or your website on every marketing piece you have, from business cards to door hangers to postcards to letters, because that's the second medium. You got the online medium and you've got offline. Offline being direct mail, but online is the World Wide Web. So bottom line is I want you guys to have an online image.
Yeah. And so we back up into module 1, and the first thing that we recommend you do is you have to set up some sort of business or entity or brand. And and it doesn't have to be complicated, George. You don't need to spend thousands of dollars at an attorney's office when it's unnecessary. So we're just going to say you go down to the county courthouse and you get a DBA. And for this example, for teaching, George, let's just call it Brian Buys Houses. Okay? So Brian buys houses. He gets his DBA. He goes and sets up a checking account. He uses our postcards we're going to give him, and he markets houses. And that marketing piece says BrianBuysHouses.com. So we do that. Someone visits, and what does Brian need to do on this page? Is it a site? Is it a page? What is that Brian Buys Houses? What does it point him to?
Yeah, I mean, basically, it should be a simple page that doesn't have, you don't want to have a brochure. You don't want to give people choices. You want them to have one clear, concise message. I'm interested in making you an offer on the house. And that really should be bold on top. And that should be the action item or the catch-all name or the title at the top. And then I want you to have a video of yourself. On my buy page, it's a video of me walking down a street. and I actually, on one of my sites, I had my my house cleaner. He came that day to clean house. I grabbed him, and we got my video camera, and I basically just kind of had the script in my left hand, and I talked to him while he was walking backwards. So bottom line, it doesn't have to be fancy. I took the script, I read it a couple times, and then I turned it into my own. And you guys can use the script that's down below. Use it as not something that I want you to read verbatim, but make it into your own. Change it up, flip it around, do whatever you want. The best, most creative, I want a script, I want a video, a message to the homeowner that really gets them to either do one of two things. Fill in their information, because there is a box, one of the components to this landing page or squeeze page is a box where they fill in the information.
Web form.
Yeah. And, or you've got your phone number blasted all over. So it's really fill out the web form, or they call. We talk about that, about setting up your business. This is one component, right? Do you have to have, do they have to have a cool logo and all that? No. But you do need a medium. You need an online presence, and this is why we're doing the contest. We want to get a lot of good ideas from you, or we want to see your ideas and see what you come up with using that 3-minute script. And really, it's not a 10-minute video. It's 3 minutes tops.
So the thing that you have to focus on when you're reading the script is what I said earlier, that this is a numbers game in a people business. You want to connect with your potential sellers. You don't dress in a suit. There's a reason George and I dress this way. Typically, someone that's motivated, George, they don't necessarily want to see someone in a suit. The guy in the suit, I always say this reminds them of the banker, and they don't like the banker. The banker won't give them any money anymore, or might want the money back that he gave them.
Sure.
And so you want to dress just casual. You want to now don't wear a tank top and holey shorts, but look casual and shave your face and cut your hair and be clean and presentable, and talk to the camera as if you're talking to your grandparents. Is really the way I always say it.
It's just tough love, though. But I think a message, kind of the emotion is tough love. Hey guys, here's the deal. You've got two choices. It's like I was talking to my grandma or my sister. I'm like, hey, here's where you're at. You've got some tough choices, but
because your love is there.
Your love is there.
You're not there to make them feel better.
Right.
And on that website or web page, you're actually there to help them, and you're there to let them know that you're going to be honest with them, you're going to be open with them, you're going to communicate with them, and you'll connect with them. But you want to just a lot of times, George, they'll watch that video and then just pick up the phone and call you.
Absolutely. The goal is not to get them to fill out the form.
Right.
The goal is for them to watch it, and they've got a decision to make. Close out the browser, forget they watched it, pick up the phone call, or fill out the form. I mean, really, those are the three options that homeowners have. The key is we just want you to get started. And that's why we're giving away $1,000 to the best one. So it's time for you guys to take action, right? I want you to get your flip camera, get your iPhone, do whatever. It doesn't have to be digitally recorded. I want you to download the script, and I want you to practice it. 15 minutes, go through it. Have it up there, make it real, because that's what I had. I had it right there, and I looked down, and I talked to the camera. Make it, turn it into your own, and be, we want to feel the connection with the camera. Don't be rehearsed.
Rehearsed in this business doesn't work. That's why George and I there's no teleprompter behind the camera.
Keep on scrolling.
We're sitting here talking to you because we want to help you. We want you to learn, and whether or not you've ever done this before, we highly recommend you do it. Go ahead and just practice telling your story, because what will happen, George, is when we talk to you about taking the calls and turning the calls into appointments later, the first thing most people say is, what's this about? And if you don't feel comfortable just telling that story, just saying, look, it's like for me, George, my story is, well, I'm glad you asked. My wife and I are investors. We buy and sell houses, and we buy some and fix them up. We buy some and keep them as rentals, and some we buy and sell to other investors that are looking for good deals.
Right.
And I feel very comfortable in that, and it puts people at ease when they call. Yeah. So this is practice for you, and record the video, You have to paste the link on this page in the Facebook comments.
And there's a certain way we want to paste it. I mean, basically, we're going to give you the verbiage on how to paste it. I mean, as far as, hey, all we want you to do is fill it out. We've got how we want you to title it. Obviously, at the end, we want you to have the URL. So it's going to basically say, hey, check out my buyer squeeze page, and here, the flip
on this video right now, we're going to put it up on the bottom of the screen. It'll tell you exactly what to put in to the Facebook comments section, and then it'll say your URL here. That you don't type your URL here. You actually paste your URL there.
Yeah, the YouTube URL. So anyway, that's it for today.
Yeah, that's it.
I hope you guys learned something, and I guess, do we have any closing remarks?
I'll just say watch your email. We've got another video coming in a couple days,
yep.
And we're going to teach. We're here to teach you. We're here to help you, and we're glad you stopped by.
And we're going to bribe you.
Yeah.
All right. See ya.
Good luck.